player who owns tens of millions of dollars, yet lives as if he has nothing. No supercars, no lavish mansions, no loud parties, while the whole football world chases glamour. Edinson Cavani chooses silence, stays away from the spotlight, and disappears from the life that everyone dreams of. Why does a man who has everything refuse it all? What we are about to explore is not simply a choice, but a philosophy of life that takes the world by surprise. When mentioning top football stars, the first image that appears in our minds is almost always the same. It is expensive supercars, lavish mansions, and never-ending parties. Success, as defined by society, always comes with ostentation. We look at Cristiano Ronaldo with a garage like a dream, or Neymar with luxury yacht parties. That is not just their life, but the standard that the world defaults to for any player who reaches the peak. And knowing that Edinson Cavani owns a fortune worth tens of millions of dollars, people also expect him to live that way, a full, glamorous life where everything must prove status. But Cavani does not fit that mold. He doesn't chase attention, doesn't need to prove he's wealthy, and cares even less about impressing the world. While others use money to assert their position, Cavani chooses silence and lives differently. And it is that very difference that poses a question many cannot understand. If it is not for money, not for fame, then what truly makes him feel fulfilled? Cavani's different life. Edinson Cavani is not only different from most football stars in how he spends money, but also in how he views his own position in the modern world. While many players see fame as a reward to be enjoyed to the fullest, Cavani always maintains a very clear distance from that glamour. Despite receiving massive contracts and, at times, earning annual salaries of tens of millions of dollars at major clubs like Paris Saint-Germain, he still chooses a lifestyle that leaves people stunned. Cavani might be the type of person who, after a match, doesn't seek out fancy parties, but feels more comfortable sitting and eating with ordinary people, even the janitors or those who work silently behind the scenes of the team. In him, there is no need to create a polished image to be praised. This became even clearer when Cavani once admitted that he might not truly fit into modern football, at least in terms of attitude toward life and the values many players today pursue. That statement wasn't for show, nor was it to build a humble persona for the media. It was like a very honest confession about who he is. While many are willing to let money pull them deeper into luxury pleasures, Cavani steps back from all of that to return to what makes him feel at peace. He doesn't live simply because he has to, but because deep down he truly doesn't need the things the world still considers symbols of success. And when a person has everything to live lavishly but actively rejects it, that story clearly isn't just about habit anymore, but about a character that was formed long ago within him. Country life. If you look at Edinson Cavani's life off the pitch, you'll understand even more why he never really belonged to the glamorous world created by modern football. Cavani doesn't live like a Hollywood star. He lives like a man of the land. In Salto, where his roots lie, work boots are more valuable than designer shoes, and horses are the real joy instead of the Lamborghinis that many wealthy people see as symbols of success. Cavani's day doesn't begin with lavish schedules or showy meetings, but in the mud, the wind, and the silence of the countryside. He spends hours riding his Criollo horses under the hot sun, not to show off to anyone, but because that is the life he truly loves. That love is not superficial, nor is it just a temporary hobby of a celebrity looking for a new sensation. It is deep enough to be a serious part of his life, to the point where Cavani even won at Expo Salto 2021 with his horse Por Garapinada, a milestone showing he doesn't just love country life in words, but through genuine commitment. When he steps off the saddle, The rhythm of his life maintains that same simplicity through what he shares. One sees a man who finds joy in very small, very ordinary things. It could be sitting silently fishing by the river to calm his mind, or mowing grass by hand under the sun like a true farmer. Those images don't look staged. They don't feel choreographed to gain sympathy. On the contrary, they show Cavani living true to his most original self. To him, returning to the countryside is not escaping the world, but returning to where he belongs. And the more one looks at how he lives, the more one understands that this simplicity is not an outer shell, but a nature that has been deeply ingrained in him for a long time. Family and everyday life. But what makes Edinson Cavani's life profoundly different is not just the moments in the fields, but how he returns to very ordinary values every day. During the 2020 lockdown, when many stars chose to hide in lavish mansions, Cavani returned to his hometown and directly participated in manual labor. The image of him skillfully shearing sheep by hand was not a performance, but clear proof of a past tied to manual labor from an early age. It shows that despite reaching the peak of his career and owning a massive fortune, he never lost his essence. In daily life, Cavani does not appear as a glamorous icon, but like an ordinary man finding joy in simple things. He spends time with his family, enjoying quiet moments like fishing by the river, working outdoors, or simply slowing down amidst nature. To him, happiness does not come from expensive things, but from the feeling of being himself, being with loved ones, and living a life without pressure. That very simplicity is not a temporary choice, but a sustainable way of life, reflecting the real Edinson Cavani in a world that always demands ostentation. Childhood roots. To understand why Edinson Cavani lives this way, one must go back to where it all began. He was born into a family with nothing but hard work and discipline. His father, Luis Cavani, was an ordinary laborer but passed down irreplaceable values to his son, working hard, respecting others, and never forgetting who you are. Cavani's childhood had no conveniences, no ease, only days of playing football on dirt pitches, sometimes barefoot or with crude bandages. But it was there that he learned the most important thing. Freedom doesn't come from money. It comes from how you live. Those memories didn't disappear when he became famous. They became the foundation that shaped him. And perhaps that is why, standing in the spotlight of top-tier football, Cavani always carries within him the soul of a boy who grew up in the countryside. Money doesn't change Cavani. When money comes, many players change. But Cavani didn't. Despite earning millions of euros every year in his career, he doesn't see money as the ultimate goal. While those around him are caught up in the material race, Cavani keeps his distance from those temptations. A classic story is when he participated in a photo shoot with a major fashion brand and was offered free clothes. Instead of accepting, he refused and asked to buy them with his own money. To him, money is not to prove anything to others, but just a tool to maintain life the way he wants. That consistency is what makes Cavani different, not because he has a lot, but because he is not controlled by what he can own. Philosophy of life. The most important thing is not that Cavani lives simply, but the reason behind it. He doesn't live that way to save money or for fear of spending, but because he truly doesn't need luxury items to feel fulfilled. For Cavani, the value of a person is not measured by assets, but by inner peace and the ability to live true to oneself. While many people spend money to fill an internal void, he finds wholeness in very simple things. He doesn't chase the gaze of others, doesn't need external validation. That creates a freedom that not everyone can achieve. And that freedom is what Cavani treasures more than any title or contract in his career. Current life. At the end of his career, Cavani is returning to the life he always wanted, on a large piece of land in his hometown. He lives with his family, away from the pressure and fast pace of professional football. No more constant flights or stressful match schedules. His life has become slower and more peaceful. He spends time with his wife and children, doing familiar chores like riding horses, working outdoors, and enjoying nature. This is not a retreat, but a conscious choice. After all, Cavani is not looking for anything more, because he already has what many are still chasing: balance and freedom in his own life. Cavani's story is not a story of a rich man living simply, but a story of a man who understands what truly matters. When many people are caught in the whirlpool of money and fame, he chooses a different path where value lies not in what you own, but in how you live. And perhaps the biggest question isn't about Cavani, but about each of us. If you had everything like him, what would you choose? Leave your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to discover more thought-provoking stories.